Um, hi everyone. Hello, ladies, and hello to the bold ones who decided to join us on the call today, and the ones who didn't have that much time, I suppose, and couldn't join us live. But I know you're watching the recording, so welcome everyone. Today we are talking about mastering leadership, executive presence, and influence for professional growth. And for the ones of you who are my regulars, who have been watching or coming to the sessions regularly or from time to time when it started back a year ago, you would know that this is a series called the Career by Design. And within this Career by Design series, I'm presenting a variety of topics on leadership and career management, especially for women high achievers like yourselves, women professionals. This one is part two because we started back last year, and after 13 sessions, we finished the first round, and now we are at the beginning of the second round, I suppose, because no, in the middle, because it's session 6. Okay, off we go. Again, I don't want this to be a one-woman show. If you have questions or observations or you disagree, please let me know. We will also have time for asking questions, but if there is anything you want to share in the meantime, please do. So without further ado, I will go into this presentation. Now, when you see the presentation, and I'm sure Alex was really unhappy when she saw the presentation because the agenda is really bulky and busy, but it looks scary, I know, but it's not that much. It's everything we are going to talk about today. Now, the reason why I sometimes want to put all the themes on one of the slides is because most of the slides are quite light, and sometimes there is nothing to refer to when you go through the slides again. So at least I just wanted the agenda to be the inventory of what we will be talking about today. And this is all about reframing leadership, influence, and executive presence. We will be talking about those invisible scripts that are holding women back. We will be talking about identity shift and reclaiming leadership. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to try and put you into some framework that the world believes women should fit in. I would rather talk about something different, how we can reclaim leadership on our terms without necessarily fitting in what the society at large thinks we should fit in. I will be talking about the so-called 5 anchors of executive presence. There will be some mention, of course, about influence as a strategic lever. We will be talking about power, and I will invite you to take away an exercise from this webinar, which is about mapping your power, influence, and leadership as is, and making an audit of it and see how it looks like, and is there anything that you can take action about to make it stronger. We will be talking about the leadership flywheel, which sounds very fancy, and no one knows what I mean by that, but you will soon. And then again, I will invite you to take action and to move from knowledge to action, and then to go a little bit deeper in the topic. So this is the agenda for today, ladies. I hope this is interesting. I know it is very, very powerful, and I know it is very, very important for us women in leadership roles, or the ones who aspire to be in leadership roles. Now, so I mentioned already, but I want to reiterate this because it's very, very important. This session is not about fitting into leadership, about, the different leadership styles. Many times during interviews, job interviews now, I hear from my clients that they are asked this question: what is your leadership style? And there are so many dimensions and so many, school of thoughts, what kind of leadership style people may have, from democratic to autocratic to relationship driven, you name it. The question about what is your leadership style can be tricky sometimes, because you, after all, are talking to someone who is likely to be your future line manager, and they also have a favorite leadership style. So if they are autocratic, for example, and you come as democratic, then you can't win. And that's why I want to talk about leadership in a different, from a different perspective, from a different angle. Because it's all about expanding your leadership in an authentic, strategic, and bold way, rather than fitting into whatever notion you believe would win you a position. There is also a school of thought which says it's best to think about 2 or 3 leadership styles. And when you come across this question in an interview, you, instead of choosing one, which may not be the one that your future line manager prefers, you choose 2 or 3, and you explain how this blends into your unique leadership style. And I think this is the safest way, and it's perhaps the most authentic. Because even if someone is very much relationship driven, as I am, and democratic, at times I have to be maybe not autocratic, but much more decisive. So there are different leadership styles that can blend into your unique style. And this is what I want to cover today. Yes, I forgot to, to tell you about myself. And because most of you would know anyway, I will just go very, very quickly through this. I'm a former Credit Suisse executive. I have much more than 20 years of experience in global financial services. I say 20 plus because it sounds better than any other bigger number. but trust me, it's more than 20 years. I pivoted into career coaching for women, the younger versions of myself. And I'm a career coach now. I also advise in business transformations. I founded my own company, Transformentum. I'm coaching and mentoring women to take control of their career because I wish I had this approach and someone to coach me when I started back so many years ago. I do believe in shortcuts, in mentoring, in coaching, and in supporting women, and especially women by women. Now, let's go back to the content. There's a lot of talking about the habits that hold women back, but there are habits of, the disease to please, of being, the desire to being liked by everyone, or being very hardworking, or not claiming achievements and so on. But beyond those habits, there are scripts that are holding women back. Perfectionism, for example. This is like a performance prison. We want to be perfect. We want to be more than good, to prove to everyone that we are really worth being employed, first of all, worth being on the team, and then worth being promoted. But perfectionism can be a performance prison, because you all know this saying, good is better than perfect. When you want to be perfect, you may be delaying your outcomes, and you may never be happy about your outcomes. The 80-20 rule is better than trying to be perfect. But again, the script, the habit of being perfect is not my habit, your habit, or someone else's habit. It's the script that we have been living by as women for so many, many years. Being likable, I mentioned, versus being clear and decisive. Oftentimes, we just want everyone to be liked, and we therefore would not say no to too many tasks. We don't want to take or make tough decisions with our teams. We would take more actions on ourselves directly, not to upset our team members, for example. And then we would be we would struggle to be honest, transparent with our line manager, with our bosses and other stakeholders when it's already too much, for example, on our plate. Now, you all know, I'm sure you do know, that it's impossible to be liked by everyone. Anyway, you don't like everyone, do you? Like, why should everyone like you? And why should you care in the first place? No matter how hard you try, there will always be someone who doesn't like something about you, about your style, about the way you dress, about you being a woman or having this name or that. I'm exaggerating now, but what I want to say is you have no control over whether people like you or not, no matter what you do. So stop trying to be likable and liked by everyone. Be professional, be a decent human being, but it doesn't mean you have to be liked by everyone. But be clear, be decisive, and do take care about your career, which means sometimes you will have to be bold and you will have to take steps which are not necessarily likable. Another one is under communicating value. We hate bragging about ourselves. The researchers say that women oftentimes prefer, or always prefer, to use we instead of I. We delivered this. We completed this. We achieved this. Whereas men tend to say I, right? And I'm not saying now you should overclaim achievements and never give credit to anyone else. What I'm saying is do give credit to your team, but do remember you are the team lead and you deserve credit as well. And then over preparing but under positioning is, of course, the perhaps the result of it all. Because of our perfectionism, we over prepare, but then we under position ourselves, saying, no, it's not me, it's the entire team. And then I was just here, to help. And thank you so much for listening to me and so on. And then you just diminish your influence. So these are the invisible scripts that we still play by and which don't help us in our leadership position. They are invisible limits. Be perfect, don't brag, be nice, be a good girl. These are our barriers to powerful leadership. I invite you to think about which one limits you most. And once you know it, go a little bit further. Ask yourself, where do I have it from? When did I learn to be this good girl? The modest girl who never brags. The girl who always wants to be perfect. And the reason why I invite you to do this is because oftentimes it comes back to our upbringing, for example. Not only societal norms, but also our own family norms, which is very, very difficult to untangle. That's really difficult to unlive, if you like. But once you know it, it's much easier to manage. And then when you think about leadership, is not what you do, is so much more of who you are. So this is why I always invite you to think of, when it comes to your LinkedIn presence, when it comes to your interviews for a job, or even before you go to an interview, I encourage you to ask yourself this question: who am I and who I want to be? Before you call yourself, I'm a manager, I'm a director, I'm this and that, because this is your role title in this moment of time. But you are so much more than that. You are everything that you have experienced so far professionally, everything you have learned, experienced, and delivered. On top of that, your values and everything you stand for. And this is why I invite you to reframe the narrative from I do this to I am this person. And for this, once you do this and once you know what your identity is, who you are, where you're going, then it's so much easier to shift this narrative from you being individual contributor, the executor, the operational person, to an architect, strategic person who thinks beyond the task. Then from an expert to an authority in your field, from someone who supports their boss and the team to a strategic thinker. So again, I don't mean by that, don't do anything, just sit back, relax, and be strategic. Not at all. It's just the way how you position yourself. I remember years ago, when I was told by my line manager that in order for me to be promoted, I need to be more strategic. And I remember back then, I didn't know what she meant by that. I think she didn't know either, but back then I didn't ask. And then when I heard it again, I was bold enough to say, but what do you mean by that? And then she said, okay, maybe not today. It's not, the right moment. Let's think about it and I will come back to you. This reinforced my belief that she didn't know what to say either necessarily then. But we agreed to have another meeting and then she explained what she wanted. And when I look back now, being strategic is so much more than coming to work and opening your computer, your email box, and seeing what is there, and making sure that you address everything that's coming to you immediately, on time, and efficiently. Because this is just a very operational work. Make sure you have time for a helicopter view, for the strategy, for thinking how what you do, what your team does, add value to the overall strategy of the team, of the company. What can be changed? What can be optimized? And this is a vicious circle because my clients often say, no, I don't have time for it. It's just so busy. Yes, but it's so busy with so many things that may be not necessary. And this is exactly what our line managers see. You being very busy, but not very productive, especially at the higher level. So remember this, who you are, not what you do, and this will help you shift your identity from executor, expert, supportive, contributor to someone with so much more value to add. Are there any questions at this point? Because I'm talking and talking and no one is saying anything. Does it make sense so far, ladies? Or is there anything you want to disagree with or add to?
Hi, Isabella. Hi. I have one comment because you mentioned that you can be
Marta,
busy.
hi. Sorry,
Hi, hello.
apologies. I didn't know at the beginning. I thought I would know who it is, and I didn't, but now I do. Marta, hello. Thank you for joining.
Hi, sorry, I realized maybe you don't have the video on.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you can be busy and not productive and don't have time for this helicopter view. What if you're busy and productive, so you have the output, but you still have done this space to make the helicopter view? Because that can also be a problem. It's not lack of productivity; it's there, but
Yeah.
it's still not at the level that it should be for the high level view.
And it's such a good question, Marta. And believe me, the moment I was saying this, I thought this probably should be a little bit reframed because, yes, being productive, you may be very, very busy and still being productive, yet delivering the operational deliverables and having no time for the helicopter view and no space for strategic thinking. This is what you're asking about, right?
Yes,
That's your
exactly.
question. Yeah. I'm sure I mentioned before to some of you, but I will again because I think this is a good example from my own experience. I had it many times, but once to the point where I knew I had so much on my plate that I will not be able to deliver. Not even what I have, let alone what was expected, which was the entire strategy of the business area and how it fits into the overall strategy of the company. So that was expected of me, but I had so much to do on operational level that I knew it was simply impossible. And I was trying so many things and trying to fit and trying to work late hours and so on, and nothing worked. And what I did then, I decided it's either now or never. And I scheduled a meeting with my line manager, and I told him that this is really too much, and no matter how hard I try, I will not be able to deliver. I was I was ready for this meeting because I put everything I had on my plate in one Excel, in one document, and everything, with dates and so on. It was easier because it was a big program that consisted of 17 different projects across the entire group, across the world. And it was easy for me to make an inventory of everything. And it was the inventory of my operational day-to-day plus everything related to the strategy. And then it was my line manager and her line manager, I told them that this is too much for one person. And as much as I would love to deliver it all and to prove that I'm a superwoman, I will not be able to do it. And I'm telling them now because if I don't tell them, I will not deliver and they will fire me. Or maybe they will not fire me, but they will tell me I didn't deliver, which will hurt my performance review. And I didn't have any other alternative, I thought, because I would either tell her and maybe I will fail, or I will not tell them, then both of them, and I will fail anyway. And it was an interesting and honest meeting because it wasn't easy, but quite quickly they understood not immediately, that quite quickly they understood what I was trying to say and that it was really serious. And also I had this proof. So what we agreed, and this was their idea, not mine, was that I will tell them which ones I'm not able to deliver, but before that, they will tell me what the key priorities are. Because back then, everything was a key priority. So we agreed that it will go back to them for prioritization, and then it comes back to me for review, and I will tell them which of those I will be able to do and which of them I cannot. And I couldn't delegate to anyone, so they will have to wait. And we then agreed we will have a weekly meeting with my direct line, and I will be telling him on every Monday how the list looks like and what is dropping out and what is coming in. This is my example, Marta. I know sometimes it's impossible because it all depends on the maturity of your line managers and how they look at it. But I am a believer in addressing issues early before they become, or addressing them as risks before they become issues. And if you come to someone with not just, I'm very busy, I have too much, no, I can't deliver this. If you have a proof and show them how much this takes, and that you cannot basically put anything else in it. And again, I was also very clear that all the operational tasks are so heavy duty that I absolutely have no time for something much more interesting for me, strategic, and much more important for them as well. So it was important for me that this was voiced because I didn't want to go out of the meeting with all the operational tasks on my plate and all the strategic being taken out. So this is how I prepared for the meeting, not knowing what I will achieve, but I had no choice. So although this scenario may not be replicable in your individual situations, I think it's always good to volunteer for this discussion, to ask your line for this discussion as early as possible, come with evidence to them and a solution. It may not be the solution they will offer, but the last thing they want is you coming in and saying, I can't deliver. Can you please help? Instead, what you can do is say, I can't deliver because this is what it's taking me and so on. This is what's been hurting in exchange. And therefore, I think this and this can be done. I can do this, maybe delegate this, maybe we should drop this. But if we don't, I won't deliver anything. And then what is your view? And together you can work out something, hopefully. But then again, Marta, there has to be this willingness on both sides. But if you don't try, you will never know.
Thanks for answering the question. Yeah, very well. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for asking. The 5 anchors of executive presence. Executive presence is oftentimes mistakenly or mistook for being all polished and nice and looking really good. You know, if you want to be in the senior leadership, dress the way they do, all those things, which are all very good and all very true. But executive presence is so much more than that, so much more than being polished and looking the part and so on. It's all about your gravitas, and I'm sure you know the definition of gravitas. I really love this notion because it has so much meaning and is so deep. It's the presence, the confidence, the leadership that you present without saying anything. The way you speak, the way you talk, the way you command the space, the whole feel around you is the gravitas. We will be talking about it more on the next slide, but just for the time being, remember all 5. Gravitas, the way you communicate, your energy. Here is the energy signature, but what kind of energy you project while in the room, how you command the space, and what narrative you again, what narrative you yourself tell yourself and others, what narrative you believe in and what others are saying about you. I think they are very, very important. They all go together, and this is why I want us to look at all of them a little bit deeply. Gravitas. You know, this again, I say I really love this notion, because when I meet someone who has it, I know immediately they do, and sometimes I can't put my finger on it. I can't say what it is really, but I can feel it. It's the emotional steadiness, your confidence under pressure, being calm. This is your credibility. And again, it's very, very hard. It's very hard to have it if you don't really have it, if you know what I mean. So in order to have gravitas, you need to have this confidence in yourself. You need to know who you are. You need to know what you are doing, because this is how gravitas builds up. Communication. Again, communication, especially for women. And you know all the stories about women being apologizing all the time for everything, or having this diminishing language, or having all this, tendencies to, oh, I know it may be a silly question. I'm sure someone asked before. I'm sure everybody knows, but would you mind answering? I'm sorry for asking. All those fillers and all those words and sentences that immediately take back your credibility. So the way you communicate, it's not only about good English or good whatever language. It's about being precise, intentional, speaking with clarity and not clutter. There is this common belief, or limited belief, I would say, that women talk and talk and talk, and there is very little substance in it. I wouldn't agree, but knowing that this is the perception, I think it's no harm to know about it, be aware of it, and to limit it um, to a minimum. And especially, and you may have noticed, it was my big challenge as well. And it runs in my family, so I know why it was a challenge. I had a tendency to making a point and then reframing the point and then reframing again and then yet again. And then that it was obvious that I was talking, about the same thing in a different way and couldn't stop. So this is something that immediately makes you look small and makes you come up as someone who isn't credible and someone who doesn't believe themselves, because they have to explain it to themselves so many times. So why would anybody else believe in them? That's why communication is important. Energy signature, it's how people feel around you. Do you bring urgency or do you bring reassurance? Do you come across as someone who is rushing all the time, being quick all the time, raising their voice all the time, being unhappy all the time, or feeling out of place? Or are you calm, especially under pressure? Are you confident? Are you confident in your own role and with yourself and with others? And command of space. This is legendary, isn't it? About women who don't own the seat at the table. And how many of us don't have it as their own experience when we were starting our careers and we were entering a room with a lot of senior people, and we will be sneaking into the room and sitting somewhere at the back so nobody will notice us. And I'm sorry, I will just sit here so I will not be disturbing anyone. This is a small thing, but it's so very important. And again, many times it's really against our everything that we feel and we believe in. We don't want to go into the room, sit in front of the speaker and be like, yeah, here I am, we can start. But that's exactly what it is about, or maybe something in between. Owning your presence in the room, um, owning the space, knowing where to pause, knowing the power of silence, but also speaking when it's important to speak, but don't shrinking to fit. Yes, and we were talking about narrative control, because what we are telling ourselves about ourselves, others will buy immediately. So you have the power of shaping the story that you tell about you, that you're telling yourself, and that you are telling others. You have a chance to be remembered on your own terms. And it's not about lying, it's about framing your value the way you want it to be seen. And of course, being congruent and aligned with what you are really bringing. Yeah, influence. So we had executive presence, we now have leadership, we have influence now, which is all about strategic resonance. And again, it may be seen as all the buzzwords, strategic resonance. But what do you mean, Izabela, by that? What I mean by that is it's not about being persuasive or being aggressive with, I will now influence you. You have to listen to what I'm saying because it's really important and it's really good. And yeah, I want you to believe me and listen to me. It's about alignment. And again, here it says upward, sideways, and outward influence that matters. Of course, every one of those does, because we often speak about influencing our line managers and the senior stakeholders, but we also need to influence our peers and people who are more junior and the ones who report to us, and hence the upward, the sideways, and the outward influence, because that's exactly your ecosystem. You cannot be a different type of influencer here and a different type of person here and different type of person here. When I say influence, I also mean I also discussed with one of my clients a very delicate and complex subject or theme that she had on her agenda to bring to a wider audience. And I asked her, did you socialize the content with your stakeholders before the meeting, before the big meeting that gathers everyone? And she said, no, I never do this because I don't think it would be honest or transparent. I want to bring the same material to everyone at the same time. And that's all very good. The point is, it wouldn't work, because if you are bringing a controversial or difficult topic to a wider audience, it's absolutely important and essential that you discuss it upfront with the key decision makers and key stakeholders who this may hurt or may not be necessarily very well received with. And it's nothing about being dishonest or disclosing confidential things, not at all. It's about making sure that you understand the stakes that the other stakeholders have in it, so that when everybody comes together, during the discussion, everyone is on the same page and everyone understands what is what. And you know exactly who will be unhappy and why. And hopefully you will be able to make them less unhappy before their meeting because you will understand their position. And this is what influence is about. Yes, so I have an exercise for you, which I want you to take away from this meeting. Think about who are you meant to influence in your direct environment. Think about 3 key stakeholders that you would like to influence, whose opinion or whose view you want to shift about the value you bring, or about the value of your project, or about the value of anything that's important for you now. Think about those 3 stakeholders and map your influence. And I will tell you what I mean by mapping your influence, but it will be a good exercise for you to think about everything we have discussed so far and how you can, how you can bring it to your own life now and see how it works for you. I will come back to it and I will tell you exactly how. Remember, we are also talking about visibility, being visible. It's a part of executive presence. It's a part of your leadership. It's a part of your influence, of course. You have to be seen. If you work in front of your computer at your desk all the time and you don't go out, you don't go out there for the key stakeholders to see you in action, to talk to them, you will never be remembered and no one will care. Self-advocacy and thought leadership are very, very important. Now, thought leadership has been the buzzword now. Everyone wants to be a thought leader on LinkedIn, for example. But that's okay, that's fine. The thought leadership that we are talking about here is who you are beyond your operational tasks. Remember the strategic helicopter view. What value are you bringing to your business area, to the company? That's the thought leadership. How much you have to say beyond the day-to-day and the operational. And of course, self-advocacy, because this will help you be more visible, more remembered, and more remembered in the way that when you are not in the room, others are talking about you anyway, but you will be able to influence how they are talking about you. So remember, you already have a brand wherever you go. You just may not know about what this brand is and what people are talking or saying about you when you are not in the room. It's best to take ownership of your brand and being visible on your terms. I mentioned the leadership flywheel. What I mean by that is leadership is not steady. It evolves all the time. We were talking a lot about your identity and how you can shape it, because your identity will translate into your influence, and your influence will translate into your opportunities in the company and on the market. So remember, when we look back, we spoke about identity, the energy you bring, your presence, then the influence that you can make, and then in turn, it will all translate into opportunities, or will not if you don't manage them all. Leadership grows through micro risks, of course. It's not all without cost. Let's look at this. I know slides, again, looks very busy, but I want you to be able to go back to it and look at it. If we talk about micro risks, look at this and see the area: identity, energy, presence, influence, and opportunity, and how you can manage the micro risk, owning your ambition out loud. And what I mean by this micro risk and how we can present it is saying it before you prove it. So don't wait. Saying no to over-functioning. And again, preserving power and not just performance. Pausing before responding in high-stakes meeting. You remember about this women talking all the time, losing control, losing patience, and so on. These are the micro risks. There is a power in the pause. And then asking a senior leader for advice or sponsorship. Do ask before you are ready. Men do it all the time. Remember this famous, if men tick 6% of the boxes on the job description, they will immediately apply because they think they are fit like no one else into the position. Whereas if we don't tick 100% of the boxes, we will never go for it. Yes, ask before you're ready. And volunteer for opportunities, for a visible project outside your role. Because visibility is more important than perfection. And remember, you will never be perfect. So try to manage the micro risks that are embedded in every behavior, in every notion here, and try to turn it into your opportunity and into a win. Yeah. Action changes everything. What I invite you to do is to, with everything that you have learned so far, look at your LinkedIn profile and see if there is anything there that you would like to rewrite, to own your story, to tell the world who you are rather than what you do, especially what you are doing now, which may ignore everything you have done, you have become, and everything you want to do going forward. Audit your own meetings, the meetings that you are attending now. How do you position yourself at those meetings? Do you own space? Do you command presence? Are you bold enough to speak? And then hold bold conversations with others. And remember, we were talking about the three key stakeholders that you want to influence. Knowing is fine, but taking action is what will change your identity and the frame that you are in your workplace now. I want to show you an example because I promised that the little exercises that I ask you to look at, I will explain them a little bit further at the end, and I'm going to do it now. I invite you to conduct your executive presence audit, and it's going back to everything we spoke about now, and I will show you on one slide how it comes together. For you to lead with power, purpose, and presence. And what I mean by executive presence audit. You can assess it across those 5 dimensions. Remember? Gravitas, communication, energy signature, command of space, and narrative control. For gravitas, the key question that you will be asking yourself is, do I project calm confidence under pressure? For communication, do I speak with clarity, conviction, conciseness? Energy signature, what energy do I bring into a room? How do others feel after an interaction with me? Do they feel rushed? Do they feel bad? Do they feel nothing at all because they didn't even notice? Command of space. Do I physically and verbally hold space in meetings, presentations, and transitions? And when I mean physically hold space, physically and verbally. Physically, of course, you are sitting at the table because you belong there. And verbally, you speak at meetings. You do speak at meetings because if you don't, you are not there. No one will remember if you were there. And if they don't remember you, they will never see you as someone strategic. Narrative control. Do people understand the value you bring? Do they know what you do? And I don't mean the answering of emails, but do you own your professional story? Do they understand who you are, what you are bringing to the table, so much beyond what is your role right now? Because it is such a crucial thing for you to be able to move upwards or sideways to a bigger platform. But if people only think about you as this role now, today, then you are in this role forever. So I would like you to look at those 5 and rate each on a scale of 1 to 5 and identify the one micro risk you will take going out of your comfort zone. This is how this could look like. That's exactly what we discussed. It's just in a pretty format. If you look at all the dimensions, the gravitas, communication, energy signature, command of space, and narrative control. And previously on this slide, we were talking about the questions to ask yourself. Here they are. How do I react when under visible pressure? Rating from 1 to 5. What is one bold action that I want to take, which may feel risky, of course, like the one when I went to my line manager and I told her I can't do it all, and I will either not deliver, I will fail, and you will fire me, or I will tell you and you can still fire me, but at least I'm upfront about it. The next is, do I speak with clarity, conviction, and conciseness at meetings when under pressure? And this one is hard. What if there is a situation which brings a lot of emotions? And we are all human beings. It's not easy to always be polished and calm and concise and everything else. So there will be situations when you will be uneasy, unhappy. There will be situations when you will burst into tears, because you are just human. What I'm talking about is the day-to-day normal operation, because this is how you build your presence and how others see you. Energy signature, what energy do I bring into the room? So if I'm a line manager, when I enter the room, does everybody freeze or does nobody notice? They ignore me altogether. Or if I step into a meeting where there is a group of executives, people who are much higher in the corporate hierarchy than me, what do they think? What do they say? How do they react? Do they know me even? Do I command attention without dominating? This is very, very important. And dominating being coming into the room and saying, silence everyone, it's me coming in. It's not about that. It's like with children, you can't force your mandate on anyone. Or you can, in military, for example, on other industries where it's common and normal and seen as a norm. But in the normal life, it isn't. It's much better to have this authority that you are earning rather than demanding. And then narrative control. Can others easily repeat what I am known for? Who am I? What I am known for? And if they can easily repeat it, is it what you want them to repeat? Is it what you want them to know about you? If not, you have to think about your own narrative and how to reshape it. And if you think about this little table, this is the worksheet where you can evaluate your current executive presence across all 5 dimensions, the dimensions that we started to begin with. Rate yourself on the scale from 1 being low to 5 being high. And note this one micro risk you can take to grow. And then think about it in the way is which of those 5 most needs your attention in the next 30 days. And what's one small, bold move you are willing to commit to this week? Also remember about the 3 stakeholders that you would like to shift your perception with. in addition to this one. Yes, and you will be happy to know that that was the last slide. I think this is a good summary of everything that we have spoken about. I would love you to take this away, think about it, and once you think about it, go back to this slide and to this one rather. Look at your LinkedIn profile. See if this is what you want others to think and know about you. Then think about your current presence in your company. Audit your meetings, make changes, and hold bold conversations if needed. Thank you so much, ladies. That was it. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you had some thoughts to share with us now. Was it useful? Was it obvious? Do you have an experience that you want to share with others now, since we have another 2 minutes before we finish? Anybody?
Hi, Izabela. I have another question. I think it's very useful what you said to put it all together. Maybe something that I have been feeling and noticing, but not so consciously realizing. So thank you for that. My question is, when you try to do a transition from more junior role to more senior role, and you have to build all those stuff, yet people already have a certain perception of you, which requires shift in this perception. How easy it is to achieve, and this is a general question, might be difficult to answer. Whereas I have a feeling it's almost easier to just, if you can start in a new job, it's much easier to have it from the start built in, but it might be difficult to challenge and change the perception that you already have in your current role. What's your experience on that?
Yeah, and absolutely spot on. It's hard. It's absolutely almost impossible because people will have the stereotypes, their own perception of you. In extreme examples, it's impossible to get promoted, for example, if your line has this perception of you. And no matter what you do, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, because they will never give you bigger mandates because they will think that you can't deliver, and you cannot be seen as someone who delivers bigger mandate because they will never give you one. So oftentimes it is very difficult. In shifting from a role to role, I think it's a little bit easier, Marta, because then you're shifting to a different line manager. Let me just stop sharing. You are shifting to a different person, to a different line, to a different environment, and then you can re-own it by presenting yourself differently, by speaking differently, by showing up differently, by refusing to take up small things if they just give you those small tasks, and opting for something bigger, and so on. The way you attend meetings, the way you volunteer to speak. I think this is the shift, which is hard, but it's completely and totally on you to do. It's almost, it's comparable to, I remember very many years ago when I was only starting, when I was promoted to a line manager in a team which already existed before I joined. And I was the youngest of the team. And all of a sudden I was their line manager. And it was huge. It was almost impossible because everybody remembered me as this person who joined and was the least experienced of them all. But then I had to change from me being Izabela, the member of the team, to Izabela being the line manager of everybody else. With one or two people, it was impossible. But overall, it was possible only because I had to change almost everything about me. So I think by transitioning to a different role, it's a little bit easier just because it is the onus is on you now to step into the role with a different mindset. Like almost, just shed like snakes, shade the previous skin and now show them a different Marta, a different altogether. And that's the only way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Izabela.
Sure. Now, ladies, if
Oh,
there are...
sorry.
Yes.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry, Izabela. This is Tanaka here. Sorry, my camera is not on because I haven't done my makeup. No, I'm only
Oh, yes,
joking.
yeah, exactly. I was having the same problem at the
Joking,
beginning.
excuse me. No, I'm working, so I can't go on video. However,
Sure.
I just tying your question and Marta's into point. What is the importance of emotional intelligence then? Because I also went through the same as you, because I was a member of the team and then I became the team lead. So I had to change the way I am, but I am who I am. And maybe I had to learn how to be a bit more stern. I had to focus on, like you say, on gravitas a little bit more and who I am. However, I can't originally change who I am. And I don't know, is emotional intelligence very important in this kind of professional environment as an executive? And how is it managed the higher you go up?
Yeah, this is an excellent question, Tanaka, because it is, of course it is. And remember, we were talking about authenticity as well. So it's all very important, but the most important thing is your authenticity. So if I understood your question, I, for example, am a very relationship-driven person. And I, no matter how I try it, I will never be this executive who's yelling at everyone and who is just, entering the room and everybody's freezing. And therefore, it's so much easier to manage people. And this is also why at the very beginning it was so hard for me, because coming from the premise of being relationship type of manager, I couldn't possibly convince two people to it, because they still preferred to be on the let's be pals terms with me rather than me being their line. So it may lead to tensions, and it may be hard, and it may lead to tough decisions sometimes. But my take on this would be, this is who you are, this is your authentic self, and you're not going to change it. You are not going to change into anybody else, because it's not you. So I think authenticity wins at the end of the day. That's your
Okay.
style, that's who you are.
Okay, that's a
Does
very
this
clear
answer
point.
your
Thank you.
question?
Yes, it actually does. Thank you for reiterating that, actually, because there's no point changing, because this is not authentic. So there's no point
Yeah.
changing, yeah, the way
And
you are. No,
also,
I
yeah,
appreciate that.
it's not a point changing also because you will never be able to change it completely, because
Absolutely
it's not
right.
that's not who you are. And you
Yeah.
will forever be suffering. It will not be you, because you will be trying to fit into other styles which are not you. You will have to change and adjust and so on, but at the core, you will still be who you are. And I think this is what people will be loving you for.
Okay,
That's what this quality.
that's very clear. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for the
Sure,
call.
Tanaka. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you.
Any more questions, ladies? Matilda, Sylvia, Despa, I know she had to drop off. Anybody else?
No, I'm actually here, Isabella. I'm very sorry. I had
Hi,
an
Despa,
emergency.
lovely.
Hi, and I'm
Lovely
sorry
to
I
see
haven't
you.
got my lovely to see you. And I invited a lot of my friends. I'm so sorry that they're not here and they're in the corporate world. Isabella, I wanted to share something, and to the last lady, I think it's Tamaka's point,
Yeah,
Tanaka, sorry.
Tanaka,
It is very difficult, because I had a staff member that was absolutely brilliant, that there was a perception amongst the executive team of her as being very bullish, very strong. However, what she was the gatekeeper, right? She was responsible for compensation and benefits and various other functions. And it was her role. So I found that by exposing her more in executive committee meetings, by putting her on projects where she could be cross-functional with the executives, because sometimes it's one incident that remains in their mind. And that doesn't mean that is that person, and that's exactly how they are. And I always believe what you've said about authenticity. You can't change that, but you do need to amplify certain things when you go into a leadership position, and that's when people can't connect to it. And I found that exposing a person on projects, even to those haters, as they say, and showing what that person's really capable of, does change perceptions, one, but it is difficult. And two, getting a sponsor, or even getting one of those people that are a little bit dubious, and spending time with this person where they get to know this person, really changed their perception of this young woman that I had. And she's now in a bigger company, in a bigger role, and she's flying, but she did rise amongst the ranks in our company, and it did change those perceptions. I also wanted to just share a personal example of myself. I've been an executive for over like 30 years of my life. And at this stage, it doesn't matter what you call me. And I took up an appointment in NEOM which is a futuristic city, as we all know, as a director of culture and DEI, and I resigned in my probation period the last month because I could not work with somebody who was not emotionally intelligent, who, as you say, took up the space in the room, didn't allow empowerment. And so sometimes there's a choice you have to make. As a person in an organization, does this organization recognize me, and would I be able to make that difference in the role? And that's also sometimes one of the things that you need to do, because you can have executive presence, but if your manager doesn't allow you, it will not make a difference in the organization. So I just wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you, Despo. Thank you so much. It's so true. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing both. And I can't agree more. And yes, absolutely. Sometimes you have to make a difficult decision, and I really admire you for this decision. But as you say, and I can imagine for you, although it was, I'm sure, a tough decision, it was so much easier to make this decision then, rather than stay and be unhappy forever and trying to fit where in the culture where you don't fit. So yes, sometimes there are really, really difficult choices. Like me in my this first leadership position, where I had to part with 2 members of my team because I've tried everything and I couldn't. And I knew it will be a very, very difficult decision, but so much easier afterwards for them because they don't have to work with me anymore, and for me because I will be working with those ones who I can work with and who can work with me. So yes, that's for absolutely. Sometimes there are really tough choices, but we need to be aware of who we are, what we want, and what kind of value we bring, and based on this, make our decisions. And Despo, thank you so much for inviting many people, because as I said at the very beginning, I have this feedback all the time that like we had more than 100 people signing up for this. A lot of people want the recording because they cannot be here at the lunchtime hour or whatever hour it is. So it's good that they know about it. They will be watching the recording, hopefully, or at least it will be available. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming back to me, because I was missing you.
Thank you, Izabela, and I appreciate it. And I hope you get value out of those people that have signed up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, all of you. And I do invite you to come to the next one, whenever it is. I think in the next 2 weeks, we will announce another one. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye-bye.